Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today's topic is going to be 6 thinking hats method and 5 whys method. So both these techniques help us to solve problems, but they do different jobs. 6 thinking hats help us to look at a decision or a problem from many point of views. So instead of everybody arguing about their own perspective, we deliberately examine facts, emotions, risks, benefits, and probably possible new ideas. And the 5 why methods is a method that help us to investigate why a problem happens in the first place. So instead of fixing the problem right away, we keep asking ourselves why until we reach something closer to the root cause. So I usually put it this way. A simple way to remember this is the 6 thinking hats help us to think broadly, to think like from many perspectives, and the 5 why help us to think deeply. So let's begin with the first part, the 6 thinking hats. So a 6 thinking hat is a way. The key thing here is that people have to think parallel thinking, meaning that everyone looks in the same direction at the same time. So normally in a meeting, different people may have completely different ways of thinking about a problem, and the results can easily become an argument. So for example, here are the 6 hats. The first one is white hat. So white hat is the type of people who are in this category cares about facts. They want to know about data, numbers, evidence, and missing information. So they would ask, what do we know? What data do we have? And more importantly, what information is missing? So for example, if we are considering a new software tool, we might ask about its price, its feature, number of users using it, or about the current performance data. So this is when we use the white hat. The next one is the red hat. The red hat is about the feeling. People who cares about the emotions. So they are allowed to express intuitions, emotions, and their reaction without having to justify them. So someone might say, "Oh, I don't feel comfortable with this option," or they might say, "I have a good feeling about this idea." So those are the people with the red hat that cares about the feeling. The next one is the black hat. This is a category where they would consider more on their risk, on what might happen, and why something might go wrong. So they usually deliberately looking for the problems, what could go wrong, what are the risks, what limitations do we need to consider. So importantly, the black hat is not about being negative. It is their job to prevent bad decisions. And the yellow hat is the one always looking at the benefit. So here we look at the value and advantages. Why could this work? What benefit do we gain? And what opportunity it might create. The next one is the green hat. This is the creativity category. This is where the brainstorming happens. So we generate alternatives, experiments, unusual solutions. So they are always trying to be creative and thinking outside the box. And finally, we have the blue hat, the process. So the blue hat manages the thinking process itself. They think about what is the input, activity, and output, exit criteria. So this it decides the agenda, which hat to use, how much time is spent, and the overall process of a project. So the next question is that how do we actually run them during a meeting? The most important rule that you have to remember is to only use one hat at a time. It is not appropriate to switch up the hat mid meeting because that would result in a lot of confusions and all that. So a sequence would usually start with a blue hat. This defines the problem and the objective, what we want to achieve. Excuse me. So for example, today we need to decide whether to introduce a new, let's say a new online learning platform. Then we move to the white hat. This is where the facts come to play. How much does it cost? How many students could use it at a time? What system are we using at the moment? And what might be missing? The next is the green hat. This is the creativity hat. It generates different possibilities. Maybe we adopt the whole system. Maybe we run the pilot first. Maybe we only integrate a few features before integrating the whole thing. So after that would be the yellow hat, to look at the potential benefit. What can we gain from this project? Then we use the black hat to identify risks and weaknesses. And then after that we use the red hat to give everyone an opportunity to express themselves and their intuition about the options. And finally we come back to the blue hat again to end up with the overall process. And this summarize what we have learned, decide what to do next, and assign any necessary actions. You don't need to spend a long time wearing each hat. A few focus one would be more than enough, but it's always better to consider all aspects of a problem, right? And so that we already know that something has gone wrong, and we now need to understand why, which leads us to the second tool, the 5 whys. A 5 why method is a very simple root cause analysis technique. You start with a problem that asks, why did this happen? And then you take the answer and ask why again. And you continue to do this process until you identify a deeper underlying cause. One more important clarification is that the number 5 is not a fixed rule. Sometimes you may discover the root cause after like 3 whys, sometimes you may need more than that. And the objective is not to reach the number 5, it is to identify the root cause that we can actually address. So this technique works particularly well for relatively clear and repeated operational problems that where we can observe what happened. However, we need to be careful with a complex problem because it may have several causes, so forcing everything into one root cause may just be overkill, oversimplified. And the final output should be first is a reasonable root cause statement, And the second one is the preventive action. How can we prevent it? So this is how to use 5 whys. There are 4 basic steps. Step 1, state the problem. Describe what went wrong clearly and factually. Avoid statements that are vague. So for example, I say, this project was a disaster. This is too vague, too broad. A better statement would be, the project was delivered 2 weeks after the agreed deadline, so it was late. And now we can use the answer for the first question to ask again to identify the further issue behind it. So step 2, ask why. Number 1, why was the project delivered late? And perhaps the answer would be, because the testing process took more than planned. And we don't stop there. We ask why again. Why did the testing take longer? Maybe there was like an unexpected defects. Why are there so many defects? Perhaps the requirement changed during the development, so we continue to ask questions like that again to find a deeper system or process failure. Then maybe the step 4 is to fix the cause. So fixing the cause is really important because the purpose of the 5 why is not just to simplify and explain a root cause of a problem. We need to take actions that reduces the chance of the root cause and all the problem to happen again. So there are several mistakes that we should avoid. First, we don't blame the person too early. Our analysis only ends because this guy A make a mistake, so it means that we haven't gone deep enough. We should ask why the system allowed that to happen. We look for evidence, not opinions. Don't build the entire root cause analysis based on only assumptions. And finally, the corrective action is also very important because it improves the system rather than just simplify and tell people to be more careful. So this is the example that I use. Why is the assignment late? This is quite self-explanatory. So this is the end of the lesson about the 6 sticking hats and the 5 whys method. If you guys have any questions, just drop a comment down below and stay tuned for more tutorial.